gives me great pleasure to welcome you all here this evening. Just as a little bit of trivia, today, April 6th, 1896, first modern Olympic Games were held in Greece. 14 nations. Every day we do something amazing in Greece, or we celebrate something amazing from history. So, well done, Greece, and well done to us. What is that? Yeah, this day. Really? Bravo. So, without further ado, this is a collaborative event between the Greek Orthodox community of New South Wales, the Athenian Association of New South Wales Inc., and the Australian Archdiocese, correct? Yeah. So I'm going to introduce Kathy Vallis, the President of the Athenian Association, to say a few words. Welcome, Kathy.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Athenian Association of New South Wales, I welcome you to today's talk called Through the Eyes of General Makrygiannis. Today, we have the honor to have with us Mr. Panagiotis, Press Chancellor of the Public Diplomacy Office of the Consulate General of Greece in Sydney, representing the Consul General of Greece in Sydney, Mr. Christos Karas. Mr. Archdiocese, President of the Greek Orthodox Community of New South Wales, Mrs. Nia Kateri, Chair of the Greek Festival of the Greek Orthodox Community of New South Wales. Today we have the honor to have with us Mr. David Hill, Chair of the Australian Committee of the Reunification of the Parthenon Sculptures. Yes. Mr. Neil Skandalakis, President of AHEPA New South Wales, Mrs. Liana Vetzayas, President of the Hellenic Lyceum of Sydney with Mrs. Dimitra Maikos, representatives from the Laconian Federation, Mr. George Vardas from Acropolis Research Group, and also we have the honor to have Mr. Themos Mexis, Director of the National Metropolitan Choir, and the Vice President of RSL, Mr. Panagiotis Zografos. This talk is in collaboration with the Greek community of New South Wales and under the auspices of the Holy Archdiocese of Australia as part of the program of the National Committee of the Bicentenary of the Greek Revolution. On behalf of the Athenian Association, I want to express a gratitude to the Greek Orthodox community of New South Wales, their President Mr. Archdiocese and Chair of the Greek Festival Mrs. Nia Kateri for their generosity in allowing us the use of this gallery. I would also like to thank the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese who included our association in the program of the events for the 200 years since the Revolution. Historically, the Revolution was the beginning of the modern-day Greece after 400 years of the slavery and became the beginning of an independent Greek nation. Today, we thank Dr. Adrachtas for the honor he has given us in presenting this talk and for the excellent cooperation we have had together. He will be talking to us about one of the major fighters of the Revolution of 1821, General Makrygiannis, and the paintings of the artist Panagiotis Zografos. As is known, Makrygiannis had commissioned artists Panagiotis and Dimitrios Zografos to paint iconic battles that he described in his memoirs. These have been saved and were published by Yanni Vlachogianni in 1907. Odysseus Elitis states that Makrygiannis saw the places and personalities of the revolution as picture drawings. His memoirs has inspired 24 cultural paintings of 1821 that are a valuable legacy to the tradition of the Greek nation. The Greeks of Sydney will have the opportunity to enjoy here at Kudos Gallery 10 of these paintings along with the screening of a documentary until the 11th of April, where there will be a presentation in Greek at 4 p.m. I would like to thank my committee, the Athenian Association of New South Wales, for their assistance and cooperation in bringing this event together. I also want to thank our speaker Dr. Zografos, and all of you for supporting us. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Just a bit of housekeeping. There's a bathroom through here if anybody needs a bathroom. And after the event, we've got some light nibbles out the back for everybody. Okay? So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Dr. Bicentenary Zografos. I don't think he needs any introduction. Everybody knows who he is, and everybody knows what he's capable of. Doctor, the floor is yours.
Welcome everyone. This presentation tonight is in English. There's going to be another one in Greek, more or less the same. It's not exactly the same, and I will explain why. And it's going to be on Sunday, the 11th of April. Now, before I start, I just want to say some things. The last time we were together, like Archdiocese and the Greek community and the Athenians, was at the very first event of the celebrations of the Bicentenary in Dicta. So in Dicta, on the 19th of September 2020, we had the first event of the program of the National Committee, and there we had the pleasure to have the Athenian Association and of course the presence of the Greek Orthodox community. Now I really want to thank the Greek Orthodox community because we are having some common events. One of the events, those common events is this one, and one we are having in November, which is a photographic exhibition. And I want to thank the community because it's not an easy at all thing to have a venue. It's a very hard thing to have a venue and a very expensive one. So we are very privileged to have this nice, small, cozy, but very pertinent for our purposes venue. Tonight I'm not going to speak about Makrygiannis. Perhaps we can talk about Makrygiannis after my talk, when we will have the Q&A. But basically we are going to focus, we are going to attempt to see the paintings that Makrygiannis envisioned and had Panagiotis Zografos paint for him. These paintings are something that more or less has been overlooked. There's much talk about the memoirs of Makrygiannis, perhaps there is even more talk about his other work, the Visions and Wonders, Oramata και Θάματα. There's much talk about Makrygiannis as a fighter, as a politician, as a figure, public figure after the revolution. But there is little talk about Makrygiannis' paintings, the ones he commissioned. What sort of project was this painting project? Why did he want them to be painted? What exactly do they involve? What are they all about? So these are some of the questions I'm going to explore tonight with you. That's why I have titled the talk Through the Eyes of General Makrygiannis, because Panagiotis Zografos, the painter from Laconia, He was from Laconia. He was painting through the eyes of Makrygiannis. Makrygiannis was, let's say, the mind behind the project. He was the one envisioning, and Panagiotis Zografos was the one who came to embody aesthetically, iconically, these visions. I'm going to start with a short introduction so you get some sort of picture, and then I'm going to turn to a more direct mode. Ioannis Triantafylou, commonly known as Makrygiannis, due to his height, he was a very tall man, or General Makrygiannis, thanks to his military services during the Greek Revolution, was born in 1797 at a very small village called Avoritis in Phokida, Rumeli. In other words, and to keep things in perspective, he was born within the generation that had suffered the consequences of the Orlov revolt, 1770-1771. When he was born, the French Revolution was still underway. We should never forget that the French Revolution lasted for 10 years. It ended in 1799. And just 1 year after his birth, the revolutionary patriot Rigas Fereos would be assassinated. During the revolution, he fought bravely at various places, especially at Jumerka. Jumerka is in Epirus. Peta, Epirus again, Arta, all three in 1821, Ipati in Phthiotida, 1822, Athens in 1822 and 1826 to 1827, Neopastro, which is where Navarino is, and Mili, both in 1825. In 1825 and 1827, he was severely injured on the battlefield. Initially, he served under Kapodistrias, but eventually he fell out with the government. His relationship with the monarchy could be described as ambiguous, for he constantly strived for the vindication of his fellow fighters and played a pivotal role in the 3rd September 1843 movement that established a constitution. Makrygiannis has been immortalized in modern Greek consciousness thanks to his Apomonema memoirs and his Oramata και Θάματα, visions and wonders. By immortalization, I mean that Makrygiannis has come to constitute a kind of iconic figure, a national myth, one could say, as far as the formation of modern Greek identity and self-awareness is concerned since 1865. Makrygiannis died in 1864 after the eviction of Otto I. This immortalization was consolidated with regards to Apomonema in the first half of the 20th century under the impact of the so-called generation of the 30s, γενιά του 30. And with regards to Oramata και Θάματα in the second half of the same century under the influence of the so-called Neo-Orthodox movement. Notwithstanding this, the wooden paintings that Makrygiannis commissioned in order to have a number of battles depicted are much less, if at all, known. This is the main reason that my talk intends to focus on them as an aspect of the legacy of Makrygiannis that supplements in its own unique way his writings, brings forth an invaluable link in the development of Neo-Hellenic folk art, and last but not least, documents aesthetically the foundational event of modern Greek experience, namely the 1821 revolution. Makrygiannis commissioned the paintings in 1836 And the artist, because it was not only Panagiotis Zografos, but his two sons as well. We know the name of the elder son, which is Dimitris. We don't know the name of the younger son. So the artists who made them had concluded their work by 1839. This means that the painting started being created while Makrygiannis had already been putting down his reminiscences about the revolution since 1829 on the one hand, and they were finished about 10 years before the conclusion of his hermeneutic, which took place in 1850. To phrase it differently, the paintings of the revolution are an integral part of Makrygiannis' project to document the struggle of independence. They are the visual counterpart of his written witness. Furthermore, given the direct continuity between Απομνημονεύματα and Οράματα και Θάματα, one can appreciate the indirect spiritual connection between the paintings and the conspicuously religious diary, so to speak, of Makrygiannis. It is this spiritual connection that explains why Makrygiannis, after attempting the visual part of his project with a European artist, eventually opted for an accomplished iconographer. The latter, namely Panagiotis Zografos, took up the challenge, and by drawing on the artistic heritage of the Greek people, created paintings that disclose to us the parallel life world of Neo-Hellenic folk art. But most importantly, the intention of Makrygiannis to enable Greeks and Philhellenes to experience enjoyment and pleasure through the paintings constitutes basically an intention to give birth to what we could call the aesthetics of 1821. Makrygiannis would take Panagiotis Zografos and his two sons to the neighboring hills at his home in Athens in order to explain to them the positions of the armies, how this or that battle took place, who was the leader of the Greeks and who the leader of the Turks, and so forth. After 3 years of hard work, Panagiotis Zografos would finish the first 25 wooden paintings. The dimensions were 56 millimeters, and the height would be 40. So think of 25 sort of icons, portable icons, on wood. And these 25 wooden paintings became the matrix for all subsequent copies. So for the ones you see here tonight. The latter were in effect 4 series. One for Otto I, and the other 3 for the monarchs of Great Britain, France, and Russia. Today, only the series given to Otto I and Queen Victoria have been identified, whereas the fortune of the other 2 remains unknown. Makrygiannis also wanted to have the paintings reproduced in lithographic prints, so that more people could benefit from them. And for this purpose, he had sent a person to Paris, but unfortunately in vain. The relevant story is too long to relate, but extremely intriguing. It's really a detective story. However, in 1926, Ioannis Genadios would fulfill Makrygiannis' dream by publishing, along with photographer François-Frédéric Boissonat, the 24 watercolors of the Otto series he had acquired in Italy. That was the first time the paintings would be actually received by the public. 86 entire years after the very creation. So this is my introduction, so you get sort of, so we set the stage, let's say, for what I really want to do, which is some, I would dare say, only preliminary aesthetic remarks on half the paintings. More than half, because the other half I will talk about on Sunday. Now here you see, is this clear to everyone? Yeah. Okay. This is the first painting. And the title is The Just Decision of God Regarding the Liberation of Greece. The first two paintings are a sort of introduction that Makrygiannis wants to have before the whole series. So the first two, this one and this one, are very important ideologically, theoretically. They reflect the mindset of Makrygiannis with regards to the whole series. So this is the just decision of God regarding the liberation of Greece. As you can see, it's very conspicuously, perhaps it's the most conspicuously religious painting of all 24. You cannot miss that. What I like of this painting, especially, is the pink color. This is a reproduction, this is a copy, it's not the original. We don't know what the original really looked like, but the pink in some other versions, this is the version of the English series. The version we have in the Gennadios series, which is the series of Otto I, it's more pink. Pink is more intense. So, as you can see, this painting is pure folk art. Folk. And we would say that it's folk post-Byzantine iconography, with perhaps some elements, I would dare say, some elements of naive art. The way, for instance, some of the figures are depicted. For instance, you see the three on the left and the three on the right. The middle on the right is Patris, which is Patrika, okay, country, it's Greece. And it's a bit funny, really, the way it's sketched is a bit funny, and that's the whole point about naive art. Now, what is this? This is a vision. This, as a painting, is the depiction of a vision. I mentioned the Visions and Wonders, one of his works. So, not only he writes about his visions, Makrygiannis had lots of visions. We won't go into that, or if you want, we can go into that when we have the Q&A. But he wants to start the whole series by depicting what he envisions, a vision. And you see, the elements, the figures are suspended. It's not really somewhere. Geographically, topographically, you cannot locate it. That's why I say that it's a vision, because it's nowhere. It's suspended, everything is suspended. But what's the theory here? This is a theology of history. Makrygiannis was not a theologian, as we would, perhaps identify a theologian nowadays, but he was a, let's say, a popular theologian, and a very important one, for that matter. You cannot read what is in the caption, but all paintings have a caption. And here in the caption, Makrygiannis says that Philippines. And he has sympathized, with the sacrifices they have made. And his just decision is to liberate Greece from her chains by illuminating the three great powers. So we have the divine being concerned about a nation, but this is not only about a nation. I mean, his vision is not that narrow, but it's more of a European vision. So within his theology of history, the history, not only Greek history, it's also European history. It involves, the monarchies of Great Britain, Russia, and France. And there is a biblical element here. A biblical element. In the Bible, God is described as a living God. The deity is living, which means that it participates, it takes part in human affairs. It sympathizes, it empathizes. And this empathy is what he wants to show here. But it's not only a theology of history, it's also a theology of revolution. In Orthodoxy, we don't have a theology of revolution. We never developed that sort of thing. But we do have it. The theology of revolution is a very modern, let's say, development. It appeared in Latin America, South America, in the 60s. But it seems that in the Greek world, in 1821, a theology of liberation, a theology of revolution, a political theology, was, in a way, sort of developed and articulated. Because at the very end, was the revolution justified? Religiously. Religiously. To kill, to have so much hatred, to kill. Makrygiannis is giving an answer, a positive answer. The revolution is not about hatred, it's about justice. The Greeks did the revolution not because they hated the Turks, but because their cause was a just cause. And what was the cause? Freedom. So that's more or less what we see here. Of course, you see Otto the first, Amalia, and on the right side you see the strata of traditional Greek society, which is the clergy, the oplaki, the fighters, and the proesti, and of course the people. In a way, you see, the people have no face. Someone might say, why is this? I mean, everyone else has a face, at least the ones that you can see at the front row. Why don't the people have a face? Perhaps one could, sort of reflect on that. But generally, in Makrygiannis and these paintings, when we see something like this, it's basically when he wants to pronounce the multitude. So that's why they don't have a face. So, this theology of revolution is a theology of resurrection. Makrygiannis speaks specifically about necranastasi of the nation. And basically it's about justice, compassion, restoration. And it's optimism. What it reflects, the colors reflect optimism. His vision of history is not gloom. It's not a gloom vision. It's not dark vision. It's not apocalyptic. It's optimistic. It's a happy one. It's a happy end. This one is the fall of Constantinople. Now, to have a sort of an idea of the versions of the copies, I've just picked this one. You see the colors? This is a detail of this one. It's Rigas on the left. Here you can see this version, and you can see the colors, and the colors are different. So just have this in mind. Each one of the series did not have the exact same colors, or was not executed in, the exact same way. Some copies were better than others. Now this is the fall of Constantinople. And I'm wondering, is this a misnomer? I mean, if you bring to your mind other pictures about the fall of Constantinople, you would, expect that the city, which is Constantinople, would be sieged, and there would be fire, there would be, battles. There's nothing of that sort. There's no siege, what sort of fall of Constantinople is this? But this is how Makrygiannis thinks about the fall. When he says the fall of Constantinople, he doesn't think of the actual, event taking place in 1453. He's talking about the aftermath. The ptosi, the fall, is a whole process that is triggered in 1453. And you can see the process. You have the Constantinople, the city. You have in the middle, the army of the Turks driving away some of the fighters, which are the Greeks. Now, right in the middle, you see those figures, like the clergy and the prophetess? Huh? You see them? Makrygiannis is a very religious person. But he does not, stop short of being critical. Now, you see one of them is holding a pugi, like a pouch with money. Yeah? You see him? Right in the middle. He's holding a pugi with money. And these are, the leaders, the clergy. After the fall, they go to the Turks, and they, in a spirit of submission, let's be friends. Now, the Turk there, you see a little Turk there, with his hand like this, says, now. And he sent it to Mehmet II. And he says, what sort of, dealing do you want? Negotiations? Are you giving me money to negotiate your position in the new status quo? No. I took this city with my sword, by sword. Okay, I'm the sovereign. So he puts it, under the yoke. To zhigo. He doesn't take the money, he doesn't need the money. He puts them under the yoke. So this is the spirit of submission. But not everyone submits. There are Greeks who express the spirit of defiance. And those are the ones going on the mountains, the Kleftes, the Amatoli. And they are, they start their own thing. The rebellion. So with the fall of Constantinople, there is a whole process of things that, is triggered. There is a dialectics of history involved. In a Hegelian mode, you would say, okay, there is the spirit of submission. Okay, yes. There is a spirit of the opposite spirit, the spirit of defiance. And then the third, the synthesis, as Hegel would say, is Rigas. You remember when I mentioned Rigas? He was assassinated 1 year after the birth of Makrygiannis. He's in one of the two most important pictures, Rigas, sowing the seeds of freedom. So this is not submission, not defiance, it's challenge. Now it's the time to challenge, the Ottoman Empire. And around Rigas, we see now, they have a face now. We see the Oglakiki, the fighters. coming around rivers. But did they really come around rivers? Not really. This is one of the tricks, the Byzantine, post-Byzantine, aesthetic tricks, playing with time and space. So here you see, more or less, 400 years in one picture, doing a sort of circle from 1453 throughout the centuries to the late 18th century. The girl sitting there, if you can see that girl here on the left side, down the side, that's again Patris, country, Greece. Again, we don't have anything apocalyptic. Nothing apocalyptic. Nothing morbid. There's nothing morbid in this picture. And you will see this again and again. Makrygiannis deals with, war, slaughter, killing. That's what is depicted on the paintings. But you never get this morbid feeling. Never. You see the paintings, and it's like, as we would say in Greek, it's like a cosmina. It's like an ornament. It's not about, something really, really brutal. It's realistic, of course, but at the same time, deep, long-term understanding of history. Long-term understanding of history. Here, this one is one of my favorite because it's, if you just recall what I said, these are the naval battles of the Greeks. But it seems like a serene sort of depiction of, sailing ships. Very vivid colors. Again, you have this space, let's say, distortion or transformation. On the left side, you have Spetses, right in the middle, Hydra, the Peloponnese, up. On the right, you have Galaxidi, and further down, you have Sarab. Now, you know that Spetses and Hydra are very close, but Galaxidi is far away, and Sarab is near present-day Turkey. But no, in his mind, these regions are next to one another. They are together. Again, it's a vision. Because how can we bring all these places together? Only in a visionary way, in a visionary manner. And then you have all these ships. The big ships, the big ones, are the Turkish ships. And they are, like they make a sort of circle. Now, the small ones are the Greek ships. And here we have a different dialectics. A dialectics is the small and the big. Huh? Just remember your Bible again. David and Goliath. Okay, David and Goliath. So, but the most important thing here is that around there's one circle. Okay, you have the Turkish ships making this circle, but then you have, if you pay attention, you have ships burning and sinking all around. Another circle. These are the ships that the Greeks, have destroyed. So it's a frame within a frame. And only if you pay attention you can see these ships sinking and burning. And each one of them was done at a different year, not in the same year. So it's not only that you have Spetses, Hydra, Sarab, Galaxidi together, but you also have different feats, naval feats of the Greeks that took place in different years. So again, you have this transformation of time. I'm stressing this very, very much. You cannot read these paintings if you don't have in mind the transformation of time and space. This is very, very important in Byzantine iconography, and it's the quintessence, the stuff out of which the visions of Makrygiannis is made. And of course you have this wonderful blue color, which, anything but, sort of betrays a gloomy, war-like, brutal reality. Now here, this one is perhaps the only picture that has a quality of apocalyptic, sort of sense, but basically only in the horizon. On the horizon. This is the Battle of Alamana, and the Battle of Alamana of Agia Marina and Stylida. And the third battle, it's 3 battles, not 1, 3. Again, the transformation of time. The third battle is at Patratsiki. Patratsiki, for those who know, is Ipata. Now, you see Athenian Zografos, where he is palukomenos, he's dead in this, very brutal way. And so it's a kind of martyrdom. The very fact that he stresses the presence of the dying hero on the top of the hill in this way, on his own cross, sort of, it's a martyrdom of a hero. And the horizon, you cannot really see it. This is not a good, copy. The colors, the horizon, which with this, sort of dark colors, dark clouds, the birds. This background is an apocalyptic background, a gloomy background. Now here, for the first time, you see in the paintings a very, very important feature, which is the intensity and the density of the detail. You see all these figures? If you really focus your eyes, try this, really. Try to, look at the middle part of only the middle part of the picture for, let's say, half a minute. And you will get the impression that they are really moving. They are really fighting. That the figures are in motion. And there's much detail there, very much. It's amazing. In my introduction, I mentioned that Makrygiannis commissioned a European artist. He did 2-3 paintings. Okay. And as he says in his απολυμονεύματα, δεν μου άρεσαν, έτσι, και το ξαπόστο. Because I think that the European artist couldn't paint, these tiny little figures. I don't know how much exposure you have in, for instance, Byzantine miniature painting, miniatures on copies, the manuscripts. Some of them are very, very fine in detail. So this painter, Panagiotis Zografos, is an accomplished painter. Not only because of the density of the detail, βλέπετε τη γέφυρα της Αλαμάνας, the bridge of Alamana, but the intensity as well. The intensity of the detail. The detail is vivid. It really, comes alive. And you will see this with some other pictures where it becomes even more so. Now here, in one picture, you see Athenian Zografos You see these figures, these four figures in front, you know? The middle one is Athanasis Zografos. The one on the right is Isaias Salonon, the Bishop of Salomon, which is Amphistad. Isaias Salonon was the first bishop to be killed on the battlefield. So here, in the picture, he's alive. There, after the bridge up on top, you see where Athanasis Zografos is going, and he's being accompanied by some Turks. He has been captured, and they lead him to the place of his martyrdom. So he's alive and he's rejoicing, okay? Then he's captured, he has fought, he's been captured, and at the end, he died. He's dying. All three in the same picture. This is important because the pictures of Makrygiannis are telling the story. There is a narratology in the pictures, narratives. There's not just depictions. And although you have this gloomy background, in front you have the enthusiasm, the enjoyment. And the hero is alive. Why is the hero alive? Because the hero is immortal. The Battle of Gragia. This is the Battle of Gragia. Here you see no faces, you cannot see anything. You only see another feature of the painting of Makrygiannis, the aerial, as if you see the picture, you know, like this basically is the entire Phokida. The Khanyo of Gragia is down there, and that's the sea where Galaxidi is. So you have the entire Phokida in a painting, and it's as if, you know, you are looking at it on top, you know, from the air. Does this recall something? Does this ring a bell? Which painting has this feature, the aerial feature? Aboriginal painting. Most of Aboriginal painting is painting seen from how country looks from above, from you know, the air. So here we see something similar. And you have a smooth change of colors as well. Blue, green, and you know the yellow ochre color of the mountainous area. Now you see, this one is not from the same series. This one is from the series in Genadovich. I've just changed the series so you get the picture. You know, you get what I was talking about, the difference in the copies. You see here we have very different colors. The colors are much more vivid. This is the Maki at Arta and Peta. Very different. Again, the same features, 3 battles in one. Arta, Lagada, Peta, but the colors are different. The detail is there, but this one is more refined. More refined. This one is, as I said, the series of Otto I, the King Otto I. This one is regarded. We don't know about the other two, the Russian and the French one, because we don't know. We don't know what happened to them. But Makrygiannis, when he wanted to make those lithographic prints, he went to the palace and he asked Otto to lend him the series, so he could make the prints from this series. This might be an indication that this series was the best. He really, you know, wanted the series he gave to Otto to be the best. Now, I picked this one to show you the difference in, you know, the execution of the artistic execution, but also perhaps you cannot see because it's very far there. On top, you see a figure, you know, there, you see this figure there? That's a man, you know, that has lifted his fustanella and he's showing his buttocks to the Turks. That's Panagiotis. But yeah, that one there. And he has been wounded because the Turks, you know, aimed at his buttocks and they wounded him. And he was wounded there and there's blood coming out. But if you can see that, it's very, but it's very, very interesting that Makrygiannis wanted to, you know, have this thing documented aesthetically in the picture.
He was lucky.
Yeah, he was lucky, yeah, he was lucky. Again, you know, see how the intensity, how the horses are moving, sort of moving, you know, the arm is going there, everything comes to the middle. It seems like it's coming alive. This is the siege of Tripolitania. Now, some things only because we can go on for days. This is Bubulina. You see this one here? This is a woman. This is Bubulina. The gender issue in the paintings. Many a time there's women in the paintings, bringing water to the fighters, helping the fighters, you know, saving them. And here we have Bubulina herself. Here you can see women, these are women as well. Here, bringing water, giving water to the fighters. The black figures on the top, the black figures are the first row, the 10 figures. Those are the 10 bishops of Peloponnesus. And the smaller row after that, you know, those are again clergy, like abbots and monks. And Makrygiannis gives the names of each and every one of those 10 bishops. Now, very interesting feature about this depiction of the siege of Tripolitania is that the plateau of Arcadia, where Tripoli is presented as a frame in itself. It's not only the picture is framed, but the place is framed. This suggests that something for the paintings, all the paintings, that each painting is autonomous. It's an autonomous vision. They are related to one another, they are not independent, they are interrelated, but they have an autonomy, an aesthetic autonomy. They can stand on their own. This is various patterns at Arta. This is Arta. Now, here we can see a very, perhaps this is one of the finest examples, where the detail of the miniature becomes very, very pronounced, and what we would call Oriental style painting. It seems very, and some say that this is an influence from Persian painting on Zografos, Panagiotis Zografos. You can see the bridge of Arta, Panagiotis Artas, here. And of course, lots of monasteries, churches, and mosques all around Arta and in Arta. So another feature, you know, when you look at and read these paintings, you can detect and identify elements of the religious culture of the times. And here, since we are with the Athenians, is the first battle of Athens. You see the women in front, helping the men who are wounded. And what do we see here? This is the Battle of Athens. And what do we see? Where is Athens? Where is Athens? Athens is those, you see a 7 there on the right, a 7, number 7? On the right, 7. That's 7, those little houses there. That's Athens, the city of Athens. Basically what we see are antiquities. This is a painting through which Makrygiannis and Zografos, Panagiotis Zografos, are reclaiming history. He's saying that the fighters that fought in 1822, the first Battle of Athens, they fought to reclaim their history. Not a city, a χωριό, because Athens was a χωριό, but the very antiquity, the very ancient history of their forefathers. So that's why you see the Acropolis, you see basically the enclosed area where nowadays is the Theatro Ηρώδοτικού. You see on the left Φιλοπάπου and Στήλη Ολυμπίου Διός, Πύλη Ανδριανού. So basically you see the antiquities. You don't see the modern city. There's only a hint of it. Again, here we have 3 battles: Corinthos, Argos, down under, and Agionoros. No Agionoros, Agionoros of Ragonida. On the left, you see Nafplio. On the left. And these are the troops of Dramatis. This is Karpenisi and Kalliakoula. Just to go back a bit, you see, I mentioned the dialectics between the small and the big. Here we have the dialectics between the many. You see, Dramatis, Stratya to Dramani, they are a multitude. And the Greeks are so, you can see them, you can count them. They're so few. So the many and the few. This is the opposition here. Now this is the Velouchi, Karpenisi, the mountain Velouchi, Karpenisi, and Kalliakoula on the left. And it's very idyllic. Very idyllic. You know? All the paintings so far are so, so friendly to the eye. But they are about battles, killing, the brutality of war. But you cannot really see it. I personally, this is a personal opinion, I think that this is one of the most Hellenic features of the paintings of Makrygiannis. That war, death, in the extreme, circumstances of war, is part of life. And it should be treated, as part of life. Death is part of life, even if it's death through war, due to war. It's not something that disrupts the picture. The pictures are not disrupted. It's organically, embedded within the picture itself. As if it's, what's the word in English? Kedimeno. It's embroidered, on the canvas, as part of life, the nexus of life. It's not something that comes out negatively. And the last picture, which is the siege of Neokastro. Neokastro is next to, basically, Navarino. Navarino, That's the siege in 1835 by Ibrahim. Makrygiannis was there. It's the first time, and I think the only time, that he depicts it. He's depicted in a way. This is Makrygiannis. Number 6. Number 6 is Makrygiannis. The Greeks, of course, didn't win this battle at Panagiotis. They had to negotiate with Ibrahim. Ibrahim left them come out of the castle. But it was a very fierce, sort of situation, and Makrygiannis was severely injured. Now, few things. Who is painting now here? And all the paintings. Is it Makrygiannis or is it Zografos? Is this who is responsible? Who is the author? Who takes the credit for these paintings? You can see it in various ways, but in my opinion, as we say in Greek, κύλησε ο τέτσις και βρήκε το καπάκι. Makrygiannis found in the artistic rigor, of Zografos the perfect hand that could, depict what he had in his mind. So this is Makrygiannis, but at the same time it's Zografos. But it's like, you cannot really, distinguish. And it doesn't matter. All paintings have what I've already said, a narratological intentionality. They have an intention that they say a story. They are not just there so you can see something. If you see, for instance, of course, in a way, every form of art says something, but doesn't necessarily say a story. For instance, it may say something symbolically, which is not a story. These pictures are, one could say, symbolic, but most of all, they are narratives. You have to read them. Really read them. That's why he has these huge captions. So you know the details. What's going on? Who is depicted? It's everything is about specifics and fairness and balance. Makrygiannis, Zografos, depict the Turks and the Greeks in a fair way. When the Turks, win, the victory is depicted. Like here, Ibrahim, he won at Nautilus. Makrygiannis is fair, but he's also balanced. Balance, just to recall what I told you about, death, even in the extreme circumstances of war, does not come out as a disruption, as an intrusion. All pictures are balanced. Now, some say that he wanted to do these pictures because, from his own example, he knew that not everyone, but most people don't know how to read. So, who is going to read the hermeneutic to learn about the Orthodox? So, let's make the pictures. This might have been a reason, but he gave them to the monarchs. It doesn't seem that he was only concerned about people who couldn't read. I think that he wanted these pictures to constitute an autonomous documentation of the revolution. To be something on their own, not just for people who couldn't read, but, as he says, για την ευχαρίστηση των Ελλήνων και των Φιλελλήνων. Pleasure enjoyment. And we know the basic aim of aesthetics is enjoyment. He wanted to create an aesthetics, a language, an aesthetic language out of 1821. Not only to enable illiterate masses, to know something about the patterns. Vivid colors, detail, folk motifs, Byzantine heritage, transformation of time and space, synchronicity, comprehensiveness, condensed, compactness. All these are words, that really came out. I think I tried my best by, reflecting on these paintings and, bringing them out. Movement. And one thing. All these, for Makrygiannis, are sub specie eternitatis, in light of eternity. Each one is a vision of Ecosiana, of that pattern. But the pattern is, okay, it's in the space, but the space is transformed. It's a story, many years compressed in one painting. But that's a transformation of time. When you transform time and space, you hint at eternity. That's the aesthetics of 1821. If the heroes are immortal, if 1821 is the Greek myth, it's because it's eternal. It has an eternal quality. And this is the visionary means that through which he, attempts to convey this eternal quality. And a final comment. I think that all the paintings are about truth. Truth, truth is not reality. Truth is something more than reality. It's not unrelated to reality, it's more than reality. For instance, you see lots of these pictures you have seen about the Ecosiana by Delacroix, by other artists, by Brizaki's. And you see them, and what do you see? You see the vision of the artist. You see what the artist sees. In these pictures, you don't see what the artist sees. It's as if, the picture comes to you. It's not as if you see, as if you are the artist, as if you go in the picture. If you see the picture of Brizaki's about the siege of Athens with Karaiskakis, you have there, a European looking at far away. You have Karaiskakis, Makrygiannis is there as well, and they're talking what they're going to do, and they're all looking, far on the horizon. It's like, you are looking there with them, like the artist. But here the pictures come out. They impose themselves. That's truth. That's truth. It imposes. It's not something that you put in, but it's something that comes out. Thank you. Sorry for my lousy management of time, but I'm still exploring it, and I just wanted to share it.
Wow. We have time for some questions, but just a comment. As an Australian Greek, we learn something new every day about what happened in our history. And I'm just overwhelmed in the last few weeks what we've learned and what I've learned. Questions? Yes, Valerie. Viv. Yeah.
See, where did these ones come from? These pictures here, where are they?
These are from the English series.
Where do they normally
Live.
live? Where are they?
They are in the castle of Windsor. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And then we don't see them?
No.
No.
There has been an exhibition, one exhibition in 1946. Yeah.
So they're not really.
And these are the series that the National Bank of Greece reproduced as prints, from that series.
So David, are these stolen? Should we add these to the
No, they were not stolen.
Your service has just suggested we form a committee for the return of these panels.
Yeah, I think so. We'll take up, we'll take up a plate shortly. David? Yes?
Thank you for riveting.
This is a different series.
You're saying there's 25 or 26 originally
25 originally.
that they survived.
24 have survived.
24 have survived.
The one is missing.
Where's the 24?
24. The 24, the original, the wooden ones, the wooden. No. From the 25 original wooden ones, only 8 have survived. Only 8 of the wooden pieces. They are in the National Historical Museum of Athens. They were donated there from a member of the Makrygiannis family.
Are they on display?
Yes.
And the paintings themselves, which are copies from the wooden ones,
Yes.
how many of those survived?
24, the English series, and 24, the Auto series, which now is at the Genadios Bibliothèque.
Is where?
Genadios Library. Genadios, Kolonaki.
And the English are in Windsor Castle.
Yes.
And none of these have been on display.
The English has been on display in 1946. Once.
And when were these wonderful photographs taken, or copies?
This one, not this one, the ones you can see here, these are reproductions made by the National Bank of Greece, a special edition, in 1996. Yeah. I think the license of the British government for this reproduction. But these have not been reproduced in sort of, a publication, but if I recall well, there was an exhibition with these, the Auto series, in 2014, which is the finest, and you can see why.
So we should let everybody know that you'll be able to come here 11 till 1 o'clock for the next 4 days, and on Saturday 1 till 4 it'll be open. And I think we're showing a film on Saturday or on Sunday. When's the film?
We are showing snapshots from a variety of documentaries that have been done on Makrygiannis, and we're going to talk about them.
On Saturday afternoon from 1 till 4. Okay?
But the interesting question is, what happened to the 25th?
Yes. What happened?
What was the 25th all about?
We don't know at all.
We don't know. We don't know.
Which one it is?
Some say that the 25th was a portrait of Makrygiannis himself. Now, there is quite some evidence that suggests that the 25th was a very provocative politically painting, and it was destroyed. It was a bird, an eagle, who had two things in his feet. On one was Σύνταγμα, and on the other, Constitution. The same thing in two different words. So there was an eagle with above the Constitution. 1940, don't forget, the 3rd of September 1843, 3 years after, the conclusion of these paintings, we have the great movement that established the Constitution in Greece. Let's see, 3rd of September, 1943. Now, Makrygiannis was one of the prominent figures of that movement, one of the 3 leaders. It's very probable. We know that there was such a painting. We know, but we haven't done it. And I don't think that it exists. I think it was destroyed because it was too.
George, you got a question?
Well, a comment. Like David, I found this absolutely riveting. The book, The Greek Revolution, has just come out by a critical dictionary by Panagiotis.
Yes.
In that, which I read up on tonight, he says this. He says, one of the paintings, which represented the regent Joseph Ludwig von Arnsberg,
Yes.
tearing out the heart of Greece, was destroyed by Makrygiannis' friends who, wishing to protect him, replaced it with a portrait of the general.
Yes.
Which is, I think, what you just said.
Yeah, yeah,
Where you go,
Yeah.
describe what it was.
Yeah. In that painting, apart from the bird, there was also this reference to Arnsberg, you know, who, being a Bavarian, you know, was sort of, you know, criticized, you know, really destroying Greece. It was too politically dangerous, and I think it was destroyed.
Any other questions?
Yes, can I ask a question?
Yes,
Sorry, Vasily. Thank you for an interesting lecture, first of all. That very first picture was very interesting, that you showed of God, you know, justifying why the Greeks should have independence. You mentioned the importance of the pink, but I don't remember, unless I missed it, whether you explained the symbolism, because obviously pink is also Queen Victoria, right? On our
That's
symbol.
Amalia.
No, on this side.
Amalia, yeah, Amalia.
Oh, okay. Then I'm maybe reading too much in it, because pink symbolises the British Empire too, right? Is that got any connection?
No, Victoria is the one with the four. You see
Okay.
four there? That's Victoria.
In the middle of the two men?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why pink? Why was pink important?
I think it's just how Makrygiannis envisions, you know, the divine light. So like a pink.
I just
Pink,
read it.
lovely color. It's a lovely color. Yeah, lovely color.
Probably it was not pink. It was, it's iodes.
Yours, yeah.
Iodes, that is a divine color.
Yeah.
Iodes is all the colors, like a rainbow,
Yeah.
in one.
Yeah. And it's
Maybe
sort of bluish.
Yeah.
It has blue in.
Blue.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just to remind everybody, we're open between 11 and 1 and 5 and 7 for the next 4 days, and then Saturday 1 till 4, and we'll be showcasing some documentaries and various other things that afternoon. Right now, there's some nibbles and drinks and things waiting for you at the back, and you can mingle and do all that sort of stuff. Thank you very
And
much.
also, we are honored to have Mr. Carlos, the executive producer, with like this program.
What did you say?